You don't have a discipline problem. You have a brain safety problem. Right now, you might feel guilty because you skipped the gym again, or because that project you were excited about is still sitting at 10% completion. You tell yourself you're lazy. You tell yourself you lack willpower. You tell yourself you just need to push harder. But what if your brain is not failing you? What if it is doing exactly what it was built to do? In the next few minutes, you're going to understand why you keep stopping and why it has very little to do with weakness and a lot to do with protection. And once you understand that, everything changes. Your brain is not designed for achievement. It is designed for survival. Survival prefers predictability. Predictability prefers familiarity. Familiarity prefers the known version of you. The moment you attempt something meaningful, something that could actually change your life, you introduce uncertainty. Uncertainty increases alertness. Alertness increases tension, and tension activates safety mode. This doesn't feel dramatic. It feels like hesitation, like a small voice saying, maybe later, maybe tomorrow, maybe when you're more ready. It sounds reasonable, but it's protection. Here's what most people never notice. The beginning of change feels exciting because it's theoretical. When you first start a new routine, launch an idea, or commit to improvement, you're operating in imagination. There is no exposure yet, no evaluation, no proof. You're attached to the idea of who you could become. But the moment action turns into visible progress, something shifts. Now the work can be judged. Now the results can be measured. Now you can fail publicly, or succeed publicly, and both feel risky. Failure threatens your confidence. Success threatens your identity. Failure forces you to question your capability. Success forces you to question your limits. Because if you succeed once, you must maintain it. And maintenance requires consistency. Consistency requires responsibility. Responsibility removes excuses. And excuses are psychologically comforting. Think about the last time you were close to finishing something important. You were almost ready to send it, almost ready to publish, almost ready to commit. And then you slowed down. You refined unnecessary details. You delayed the final step. You told yourself it wasn't perfect yet. Be honest. Was it truly about perfection, or was it about exposure? Because finishing makes something real, and once something is real, you cannot hide behind potential anymore. Potential is safe. Reality is confronting. There's another dimension people ignore. Your environment adapts to the version of you it knows. When you begin changing consistently, relationships shift, expectations shift, dynamics shift. If you become more disciplined, more focused, more ambitious, the people around you may react. Not always negatively, but differently, and your brain anticipates that disruption. Humans are wired for belonging. Belonging means alignment with the group. Growth creates separation, even subtle separation, and subtle separation can feel threatening. So your brain asks an unconscious question: is this growth worth potential isolation? You don't hear that question consciously, you just feel resistance. This is why consistency is not just about habits, it's about identity. When you act inconsistently, your identity remains flexible. You can say you're trying. Trying is safe. Trying doesn't demand proof.
But when you act consistently, identity solidifies. You either are disciplined or you are not. Clarity replaces ambiguity, and clarity is uncomfortable. Because clarity removes narrative control. Every time you retreat, you feel relief. That relief is small, but neurologically powerful. Relief lowers stress. Lower stress signals safety. Safety reinforces the behavior that produced it. So the brain learns, stopping reduces discomfort. And next time, stopping feels easier. Not because you chose weakness, because you trained relief. Avoidance becomes automatic, and over time, you mistake automation for personality. You say, I'm just not consistent. But that's not identity. That's conditioning. Motivation cannot overpower conditioning. Motivation spikes and fades. Conditioning repeats and strengthens. If you depend on feeling inspired, you will always lose to feeling uncomfortable. Real discipline is built differently. It is built through tolerance. Tolerance for uncertainty. Tolerance for mild stress. Tolerance for exposure without immediate escape. The people you consider disciplined are not less afraid. They are simply more tolerant. They have trained themselves to stay. So how do you begin? First, recognize the moment protection activates. Notice the urge to delay. Instead of saying, "I'm lazy," say, "My brain is trying to protect me." That simple reframing changes the battle. Now you're not fighting yourself, you're understanding yourself. Second, reduce the action to something manageable. Not because you're lowering standards, because you're increasing compliance. 5 focused minutes, 1 completed step, 1 uncomfortable action without distraction. That is how you retrain safety. Each time you act despite mild discomfort, you send a new signal. Discomfort is not danger. Over time, that signal strengthens, and protection becomes less reactive. Consistency is not about dramatic effort. It's about stable repetition under tension. It's about choosing long-term expansion over short-term relief. You don't lack discipline. You lack practice operating beyond automatic safety patterns. And practice changes wiring, slowly, steadily, predictably. Stay when it feels uncomfortable. Finish when your brain suggests pause. Move when relief feels tempting. That is how identity shifts. That is how conditioning rewrites itself. That is how real consistency is built. I'll see you in the next one.